Well, it honestly, at first I didn't think we'd get to this point, but ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in 2020, welcome to the TigerWarEagle14 Show, College Football Edition. Yes, college football is finally back, and we couldn't have asked for it for a better time any place. But today we're going to be talking about some things on the first several weeks of college football, their topics. Then we're going to take a look at some other games that have happened over the past couple of weeks. But to join me, we're going to bring back a very special guest who really has done a great job on his weight loss thing. So ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the one and only Stingray. Stingray, do you hear me?
I do. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Let's just go ahead and get it down to business, man. 2020 this year has been off the rails with so much of like just so many problems, like the whole racial stuff going on, including just burning and looting and everything. But not just that. The main problem for us this year has been the coronavirus, which has affected so many sports, like NFL, NBA, moving to Orlando. Just talk about like how. It looks like now we're gonna have I guess you could say college football is the one thing that we need now.
I agree with that, and thank you once again for having me on the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pleasure and an honor to be here, and I apologize for my attire. I wished I could have dressed a little bit more professional, but as soon as we get through with this interview, I'm going to do my morning exercise, so I wanted to just go on ahead and get ready to go exercise right after this interview. But yes, it has been a quite a a lot of turmoil in the off season with COVID and everything else. And so now we're down to college football. But I do need to say that a couple of games have been postponed for this weekend as well. Most notably, Notre Dame and Wake Forest, which is a pretty good little matchup there. So that game has been postponed, and it will be rescheduled for December the 12th.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was really looking forward to that Notre Dame Wake Forest game. I was really wanting to see, somehow if Wake Forest would do good against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's been killing it the past couple of weeks with their first game.
Yes.
I can't remember who they played first, but then they just demolished South Florida. Well, they played Duke first, then they demolished South Florida after that. So, so like Stingray said, Wake Forest and Notre Dame has been canceled or postponed. It will move to December the 12th. Let's go ahead and take a look at some games that happened the past couple of weeks. South Alabama, Southern Mississippi. Wait, Stingray, you said Southern Miss was your favorite team, right, in the state of Mississippi?
Yes, I have some close friends that are Southern Miss alums, so I do cheer for them. Occasionally, I hope they do well. But I like all teams now, all of college football. Yeah. I'm a fan of the sport, not necessarily one specific team. And I'll get to why about that here a little bit later on.
All right. Of course, to be honest, I had to pull for South Alabama because there's a good friend of mine who was playing for South Alabama. His dad, the legendary Gerald Wallace, who played at my alma mater in high school and then played for the University of Alabama. But his son, Davin Fenord, plays for the Jaguars. They played last night against UAB, which UAB won. I believe it was I think it was 35-10 UAB won. But, just so many problems on South Alabama last night. I mean, Steve Campbell, I can say he's doing a pretty decent job at South Alabama right now, but he's got to get it together for his program.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Bill Clark, he's a tremendous job since taking over in 2014, which would have been UAB's final original year of being an original team. But since they came back, they have run the show. They've been undefeated at Legion Field. They're getting a brand new stadium in downtown Birmingham. I actually went over there last Friday afternoon, and I'll tell you what, buddy, that Protective Stadium, I think that's what it's called, that is going to be a beautiful, beautiful stadium. The Miami Hurricanes, of course, Derek King, the transfer out of Houston, doing well in South Florida. They take on Florida State tomorrow afternoon. I see you throwing up that U sign.
Yep.
The Marshall Thundering Herd, we are Marshall, they took down Appalachian State last Saturday, and now they're ranked in the top 25, I think, for the first time in quite a while. Really, it's been quite a while since Marshall's been ranked in the top 25. But more importantly, the Big 12. I'll tell you something, buddy. The Big 12 right now, they're in trouble. Oklahoma and Texas, they got it made. But Iowa State is getting blown apart by Louisiana Lafayette. I thought it would be a close game, but I did not see that coming from Louisiana Lafayette. You had Kansas State losing to Arkansas State, and then you have Texas Tech barely squeaking by Houston Baptist. And then you had Coastal Carolina going to Lawrence, Kansas, beating the Jayhawks. I mean, what do you see in the Big 12 right now with the just like how the strength of schedule for Oklahoma and Texas is now going to be? Like, do you still see them in the playoff with the strength of schedule?
I do because the other teams are so down. I think they are just going to just run through that conference. And let's not forget, last weekend Oklahoma State struggled with Tulsa and had to outscore them by 13 in the fourth quarter just to be able to win that game at Boone Pickens Stadium.
Oh yeah, the Big 12. I'll tell you what, they're going to need a lot of luck for the what do you call the bottom tier teams. Of course, one of those Big 12 teams we forgot to mention of the COVID-19, TCU had their game postponed, I think, against SMU because I think it was TCU that has several players with COVID-19. So they're going to have to move that game back later on. But speaking of postponements or cancellations, the Big Ten, Pac-12 have announced that they are going to start later on this year. Big Ten will start off on the weekend of October the 24th. The Pac-12, I believe, say they're going to get started on the weekend of early November. And the MAC, the Mid-American Conference, announced, or they haven't announced yet, rather. I'm sorry. I looked on there earlier about 10 minutes ago. There has been no announcement yet as of right now. They are still voting on trying to get some MAC teams getting ready to play. Stingray, do you see the MAC making a comeback?
Yes, I do. I think all teams will come back now. And let's not forget the Mountain West put out a statement last night saying that they were coming back as well. So all conferences other than the MAC have said that they're coming back, and now we're just waiting on the MAC. But I do believe that the Big Ten really screwed up and, handled the COVID-19 thing horribly this year. The Pac-12 obviously, had documents saying, well, this is why, we can't play, yada, yada, yada. The Big Ten was like, just believe us because we have a lot of red tapes why we can't play, and there really wasn't there. So the Pac-12 did it correctly. The Big Ten, however, did not.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's go ahead and take a look at some SEC Week 1 games. Week 1 of the SEC is finally here after such a long summer of disappointment. But anyway, let's go ahead and start it off with Oxford, Mississippi at 11 o'clock Central Time. Number 5 Florida travels to Oxford, Mississippi on ESPN. Florida is an 11-point favorite against the Rebels. Lane Kiffin's debut as the Rebels head coach as he comes back to the SEC where he used to coach at Tennessee. So who do you take the Florida's favorite by 11 points? So do you think who do you think is going to win, Stingray?
Dan Mullen returning to Oxford. Dan Mullen in Florida all the way. Just too much of an opening game for Hugh Freeze. I mean, not Hugh Freeze. Sorry, Lane Kiffin. Just too much power and too much talent on Florida's team. I do think that Lane Kiffin will do well up there at Ole Miss. I think his scheme, he's going to actually catch somebody, and I think both Mississippi teams, Mississippi State and Ole Miss, will upset somebody this year that they're not supposed to, but it will not be Florida. Because Florida, I really feel like, is the team to beat in the East because of the offensive issues and the quarterback issues over at the University of Georgia. Yeah. So I like Florida in that game. Now, I will say this, though. I think the first half of the game with Florida, Ole Miss could be interesting if Ole Miss gets things rolling, but I think in the end, Florida ultimately pulls away and the game becomes boring in the second half.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm going to pick the Gators, but more importantly, we're doing something new this year. We're going to be doing the point spread that you think is going to cover. Do you think they're not going to cover? So, again, Florida is an 11-point favorite over the Rebels. Do you see Florida covering, or do you see them not covering?
Covering.
You see them covering 11 points?
Yes.
I agree with you. I'm going to go with Florida covers. I think they win by maybe 17. I'm going to say 17. 2:30 Central Time, CBS, Mississippi State travels to Death Valley to take on the LSU Tigers. You're defending national champions of college football. Yes. One of the greatest teams ever assembled. But speaking of LSU, we need to mention this too. Of course, LSU has a new quarterback. Joe Burrow's gone to Cincinnati, to the Bengals. You've had so many defensive players and some offensive players gone. Like Clyde, whatever his name is, Hilaire, or whatever his name is. He's playing for the Chiefs now. What do you see? What do you think LSU's going to do this year with their new replacements? What do you think their record would be?
I think they're going to lose to Alabama and Florida. Everybody else, I think they have enough talent to run the table on that, but I do think that they're going to trip up with Florida, and I think they're also going to trip up with Alabama coming to town. I think that they can beat Mississippi State, even though they don't have Jamar Chase. That's really going to hurt that offense. Yeah. They lost Brady, the offensive guru, and, of course, they bring in Bo Pelini on the defensive side, which I'm not so sold on that because Bo Pelini did not do well up at Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
So I do not like Bo Pelini. I don't think he's that good of a coach. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be real interesting to see how well the COO and the CEO Ed Orgeron kind of meshes things again because he was brilliant at it last year by bringing in, Joe Brady and Dave Aranda. Mm-hmm. But now with both of them gone, now we're going to really see what Coach O and LSU has in store if they actually keep things rolling or if they take a step backwards.
Well, we'll get to Auburn's game in a minute, but do you see LSU probably losing to Auburn on the road at Jordan-Hare with their new staff and new players?
I really don't, simply because Auburn has lost a lot on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, and I think this could be a really, really down year for the Auburn Tigers. Even though Bo Nix returns, mm-hmm. I really feel like without a 1,000-yard rusher next to him, that offense is really going to struggle because if you look in the past at Auburn, whenever they've made a shot to go to the 14 playoff or had a chance to contend, they've had a 1,000-yard rusher, and they just don't have that this year, I don't think.
Yeah, we'll get to Auburn and Kentucky here in just a minute. But let's go ahead and talk about LSU and Mississippi State. LSU is a 19-point favorite. I mean, despite the new staff and, of course, Mike Leach coming to Mississippi State, his debut in the SEC as a Mississippi State head coach. Again, LSU is a 19-point favorite. So who do you see winning this battle on the Bayou?
LSU, and I think LSU wins it going away because it is a lot harder to go from what Mississippi State was to the air raid offense. That's going to take a lot of time to gel. I think Mike Leach will do well at Mississippi State, mm-hmm. But game one for Mike Leach against LSU, the defending national champions, I just don't see, Mississippi State winning. And like I said, pretty much the offense is going to stay the same at LSU because of what Joe Brady left behind. And it's completely new at Mississippi State and a new quarterback as well, J.K. Costello from Stanford. I think it's just going to be too much of the Bayou Bengals. Go Tigers.
All right. I can see LSU winning too, but you got to keep this in mind. Normally at Death Valley, it is always sold out. It's always packed. This year, it's a different story. Thanks to COVID-19, the SEC has reduced capacity, limiting it to about 20%. So you'll probably see maybe 20,000 LSU fans in the stands.
Right.
So I think Mississippi State could have a good chance with maybe doing something, but I still see LSU winning the game. Now, do you see LSU covering the 19-point spread or not?
I do. Yes, I think it's going to be a really bad debut for Mike Leach.
I'm going to disagree. I think LSU does not cover by at least 2 points. I'm going to say it'll be a 17-point differential against the Bulldogs. Georgia at Arkansas, the 4th-ranked Bulldogs, and let me just say this: I do the Catholic little sign right there for old Arkansas because they are going to be having tons of problems against the Georgia Bulldogs as they head to Fayetteville, Arkansas. It'll be a 3 o'clock Central Time kickoff on the SEC Network. Georgia is a 25-point favorite. So what do you see? And, of course, Jamie Newman, we got to talk about him, too. He opted out due to COVID-19. So with the quarterback situation going on now at Georgia, you said it earlier. But anyway, who do you think wins this game, Georgia or Arkansas?
A friend of mine said this yesterday on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If Arkansas does not win the coin toss, they don't win anything else for the rest of the day. Right. Georgia Bulldogs, big in Fayetteville. But I am interested to see what the new offense looks like with so many issues, because I'm hearing reports of a lot of issues due to COVID and issues with that Georgia offense. And Georgia had offensive issues last year with a veteran quarterback, but I am hearing reports that this defense for Georgia could be the best defense he's ever had, even with the defenses he coached at Alabama. So that could be problematic down the line. But you got to have an efficient offense to make things gel in the SEC, and I just don't think Georgia has that yet. But I do think Georgia escapes Fayetteville with a huge, big-time blowout win over Arkansas. And honestly, Arkansas does have the strongest schedule and toughest schedule in the country, because you open with Georgia, you finish with Alabama. I would not be shocked to see them win 1 game or 0 games this year in Sam Pittman's debut year at Arkansas.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I think Georgia – I'm going to say Georgia does win over Arkansas and Fayetteville. And do you see them covering the 25-point spread, or do you not see them covering? You see them covering?
Yes, covering, yes. I mean, because Arkansas is bad, and there's absolutely no way that a new staff can come in and go, okay, well, you were bad last year, you're going to be great this year. There's going to be some growing pains for Sam Pittman, and it's the same players taking the field that took the field last year. But now I will say, Felipe Franks is going to be an upgrade at the quarterback position, but what does he have around him? That's the key, and that defense was atrocious last year, and I think it's going to stay atrocious this year.
So does Arkansas play Florida this year? Is that part of their cross-conference thing?
I don't know.
All right, I'm pretty sure if someone in the comment section would let me know if Arkansas is playing Florida this year, that'd be great. Because if that is true, man, that'll be one heck of a little get together again. He have to play against his old Florida teammates for that. I think that game's a Fayetteville too, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if they're playing this year though. But I'm taking Georgia, and I'm going to say that they do cover. But here's a good question. Who do you think goes winless this year? Would it be Arkansas or Vanderbilt? Because, they're going conference only, and those two teams haven't won Arkansas really haven't won a conference game in quite some time.
It's too bad that the SEC didn't actually put both of them together in a game so that we could see, which one fight for the bottom of the cellar in the SEC. But I still think the talent gap is better at Arkansas than Vandy, so I'm going to say Vandy goes winless, Arkansas gets 1.
All right, I agree. I mean, look, Vandy, they were once good in football. I know that, obviously. But, I just don't know if they're going to win a game this year. So I'm going to say Vanderbilt does go winless in 2020. Their neighboring, or their in-state neighbors, the Tennessee Volunteers, 16th ranked Volunteers, will take on the South Carolina Gamecocks on the SEC Network at 6:30 Central Time. I think this is a pretty good game to bet on. Tennessee is a 3-point favorite in Columbia, South Carolina. So, what do you see in that game? Who do you think wins this game between the Vols and the Gamecocks?
Well, honestly, let me just go ahead and say it like this. At the start of the 2021 season, I think you're going to see 2 brand new coaches and 2 programs. That's going to be a new coach at South Carolina and a new coach at Vandy, even with the COVID, pandemic, because there's just no fire in, Will Muschamp. And I think, South Carolina fans are getting really upset with him not really taking the program to the next level. And I think that will continue in 2020. So I think Tennessee wins this game and wins this game going away.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on the Muschamp thing. If he don't do something this year, if he doesn't get to do a bowl game, that's it. I mean, you lost Jake Bentley to Utah, which, like I said earlier, obviously the Pac-12 is going to try and get the season started, so we'll get to probably see Jake Bentley play for Utah for some games. I'm going to say Tennessee does win, but the best question is, do you think they cover the 3-point spread? Well, I mean, it's a field goal. I mean, so I'm going to say they do cover the spread. So you say they cover, I say they cover. We're going to both say they cover. Another 6:30 Central Time game. Texas A&M, the 10th ranked Aggies, take on the Vanderbilt Commodores in College Station on the SEC alternate channel. Texas A&M is a favorite by a whopping 30 points. Do you think that's too much, or do you think that's just about right?
I think that's just about right, and I honestly feel like that Texas A&M is going to have to gift Vanderbilt a touchdown, like a punt over the head or a blown coverage in order for Vanderbilt to score.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that the talent gap there is just so incredible for Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher. Although I will say that we need to watch. One of the weapons for Kellen Mond opted out this year. Osborne, the great wide receiver. So that's going to hurt Texas A&M on down the stretch when they play Alabama and Mississippi State and Auburn and, of course, LSU. So that's really going to hurt that offense and kind of set them back. But I think, honestly, you and I could go out there with that football team and Kellen Mond and beat Vandy, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. So you're picking. I'm sure you're gonna pick Texas A&M, obviously. So you think you're gonna pick them to cover too?
Yes.
I'm picking them
so,
to win, and I'm picking them to cover. But speaking of Texas A&M, of course, Jimbo Fisher entering his 3rd season. So what do you see A&M doing this year?
I still think that they lose 3 games potentially. Whoever their crossover game is, either Florida or Georgia, and then of course I think they lose to LSU and Alabama. But I still think that is enough for him to get another year down at College Station. Yeah. So it would have to be a total disaster for them not to even win a football game, and then they might pull the trigger on letting Jimbo Fisher go. If they lose 2 games and win the rest of them, I think they will be sitting pretty good for the 2021 season.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jimbo.
I will say this though, just between you and I, I do think that the next step that A&M is never going to contend with Kellen Mond as a quarterback. I think they're going to have to wait until he graduates for them to take the next step and contend.
Yeah, I agree on that as well. Speaking of A&M, for the first time in the Iron Bowl. In Iron Bowl history since the rivalry was reinstated in 1948, Auburn and Alabama will not be the last regular season game. Instead, it's going to be Auburn hosting Texas A&M on December the 5th. And on that same day,
Alabama, Arkansas.
Yeah, and Alabama will travel to Fayetteville, Arkansas. So I think that is, I honestly thought they'd keep it as the last game, but I did not expect Texas A&M to be our last game of the season, regular season at least. But speaking of the Crimson Tide, they got to go to Missouri tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Central Time on ESPN. Sean McDonough and Todd Blackledge are actually going to be on the call for that game. Alabama's a favorite by 26 points over the Missouri Tigers at Faurot Field. Of course, the past couple of days we've learned that Missouri has 30 players that have caught the coronavirus, and somebody told me, it is a rumor, I don't know, but somebody said that the game could be canceled, but that's just rumors. But I think the game's still going to go on as scheduled. I still think, I'm pretty sure Alabama could be getting ready to load the buses and head to the airport at any moment. So, or probably already there by now. But who do you see winning this game, Alabama or Missouri?
Roll Tide, huge. Because once again, you have the same situation that you do down in Starkville. You're going from a different scheme from what Derek Dooley put together to Dershowitz now, and who was at Appalachian State. So it's going to be more up-tempo, let's go. And so it's going to take a lot more time to gel. And that's going to be problematic with them playing Alabama first game. And I think Alabama is mad. I think they are hungry again. And let's not forget this. Last year, at the end of the year, Alabama's defense was ranked 15th nationally. That is the worst under Nick Saban in his entire tenure at Alabama. So you know that defense is going to be a lot better. You have Mac Jones coming back. You have Bryce Young. And then, of course, you have the studs of running backs and wide receivers. Mm-hmm. Alabama is going to roll through the SEC West and ultimately end up in Atlanta facing the Florida Gators in Atlanta. And I don't even see the closest game being 10 or more by any SEC West team, because I think Alabama's mad, and I think they are just going to run wild through the SEC West.
Wow, so you already made your SEC championship predictions. We haven't gotten to that yet. But I agree with you. Alabama over Missouri. Again, 26-point odds. So what do you think about that? Is Alabama going to cover, or are they going to barely get and not get close to 20?
They're going to cover definitely against Missouri. Yes, unfortunately, a former team of mine, and I do currently still watch them. But I honestly think that Alabama's just too much for Missouri week 1.
Absolutely, I'm actually paying them to cover the spread as well. But what's that coach is at Missouri? I forgot his name. He came from App State. I do think he's going to. Do you think he's going to do good at Missouri? Because I think he'll do all right. He won't be Gary Pinkel, but he's gonna be kind of close to that. Do you think he'll be close to Gary Pinkel a little bit?
I do. I agree with that. But once again, it's going to take time, a new system to gel with those players. Yeah,
agreed. Our last SEC Week 1 game is the one, of course, many Auburn fans have been waiting for. Number 8 Auburn will host the Kentucky Wildcats, 11 o'clock Central Time on the SEC Network. Kentucky actually ranked 23rd in the preseason poll. Auburn is a 9-point favorite over the Wildcats. So, Stingray, what you got?
You're an Auburn fan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't cut me off. Big Blue Nation gets it done.
Wow, really?
Yes, I think so. I really like Terry Wilson. He's coming back. And this year, obviously last year they were not able to throw the ball because they had a wide receiver playing quarterback, so they ran the ball a lot. And so this year, I think with Terry Wilson coming back, if he can stay healthy, of course, then they're going to get that passing game going, and that defense is stacked. Auburn has lost a lot. And especially with Bo Nix coming back, what weapons does he have? What kind of running back situation does he have? And they lost a little bit on the defensive line as well. I think Kentucky shocks the world and knocks off Auburn tomorrow at Jordan-Hare.
In the famous words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Here's the thing. Of course, Seth Williams coming back for his senior year. Sean Shivers, who knocked that Alabama guy's helmet off in the Iron Bowl last year. You got, obviously, Bo Nix. You got some of his weapons coming back. His favorite weapon, Seth Williams, obviously. Right. But I'm honestly going to disagree with you. I think the Auburn Tigers will take the win over Kentucky, but let me tell you, it is going to be a dogfight. It will be a close battle. Kentucky's going to give it their all. But in the end of the day, the Auburn Tigers will take down the Kentucky Wildcats. So Auburn is a 9-point favorite. But here's the thing. I'm not going to cover. I think it'll be closer. It's going to be at least maybe a 3 or 4-point ball game. Because, like I said, Kentucky got that running game. And if Auburn can't stop the running game on the defensive line, we're in trouble. So
Yeah.
I'm still taking the Auburn Tigers, but they will not cover the spread against Kentucky.
I got to say one more thing about that game. At the end of the day, I do believe CBS is going to look back and say, man, we missed a great opportunity to put Kentucky and Auburn in there, because I think that game's going to be actually closer than the one that they picked at Mississippi State LSU.
Exactly. I'm like, well, y'all could have had the chance to see Kentucky and Auburn play. I mean, LSU's in a steamroll Mississippi State.
Yes.
Anyway, Stingray, man, hey, thank you for joining me this week, man. I hope we get to talk next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, and go SEC. SEC.
Yeah, and we're back. Let me say this too real quick. Like I said earlier in the show, it's been a long summer, but we're here, everybody. SEC football, the big boys are about to play. So, I mean, I'm going to forget about UAB right now, forget about South Alabama right now, forget about anybody. All I'm going to care about now is the Auburn Tigers, and tomorrow we're going to kick Kentucky's butt right back to Lexington, Kentucky. So anyway, again, Stingray, thank you very much for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, man.
See you.
All right.
And that'll do it, ladies and gentlemen, for the TigerWarEagle14 Show. I am TigerWarEagle14 signing off for now. Tomorrow, of course, the Auburn Tigers at 11 o'clock Central Time on the SEC Network. That'll be the first game to kick off the 2020 SEC season. So be sure to look out for a post-game show or a day after show of the game. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.